Dane Cook, pay-per-view, 20 minutes, let's go. Welcome in to the Bro Force Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and talking movies. This is episode 198, the 2023 movie preview show. I'm your host, the Mayor, Jeff Hornacek. Thank you so much for checking us out. All right, Ronnie, we've closed the book on 2022 as a film year. How many lawsuits were filed against us as a podcast, and what was our win, loss, and draw record? We're like the NHL in soccer, right? We have draws.
Yeah, so I would say we were sued about 18 times.
Okay.
And we won 36 times because I countersued every single one of those motherfuckers.
Wow, that's double. That's awesome. Also, for those at home, like, there's not ties in the NHL anymore. I know that you can get an overtime loss, though, so that'll count. But we didn't have any of those, I guess, in the courtroom. No overtime losses.
There were a couple. There were a few overtimes that went into ties, like all the NFL rules, where both of us were just standing there. Both lawyers were like, "Wait, we didn't even know this was possible."
We didn't know the rules of this litigation. Apparently,
yeah, sorry.
You filed a motion first, but it's not rejected. Then it ends in a tie.
We actually won so many cases. We have a free pass to copyright, to infringe for the entire year. So
let's
like use
coupon that we got in the mail.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to cut it out and laminate it to make sure it's formal.
Not a problem. Is it covered in protective plastic?
Yeah, we got it at an institute in Buenos Aires.
He checks out. All right, well, here on the Bro Force Squad podcast, we start every episode out with the most important thing in any bro's life, and that is chess day. And as is our tradition, I think we've done this every year of the podcast with our movie preview show for the upcoming year. We divide our preview show into basically three different categories of film that we break down the year from. So we discuss our most anticipated movies. It used to be one, but as we've gone on, I can't just limit a lot of these to one. I'm sure you can't either. Then we go into our biggest sleeper films, movies that we think might be flying under the radar or that we think surprise us.
Can I really step in here? One time I got in trouble because I said my biggest sleeper film was a movie called Sleeper, and I was told later on that's not what a sleeper film is. So I apologize. You're not going to get that out of me this time.
You know what? I'll count it if you even saw the movie.
I did not. I really should have.
One time Brian's best film of the year was what's that fucking, I'll look it up. He didn't see it, basically. This is the point.
I kind of remember this.
I can't remember the name of the actor. I'll have to look it up. It was many years ago. Gary Oldman's in it. The kid actor from Ender's Game.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
about. So we'll do our biggest sleeper film. Then we go into what we think could be the biggest flops of the year, the movies that are going to bomb the worst. And then at the end, just any honorable mentions or things that we want to talk about that did not fit into any of those other three categories. If you are listening at home, please comment below your most anticipated movies, biggest sleeper, biggest flop for 2023. And secondly, before I turn it over to you, looking at this year, just kind of going through and other sort of get my what was. I don't think that this movie year has like any films that I'm absolutely dying to see. Like my most anticipated list, I'm pretty excited for these, but there's certainly been years where I was just like literally had heart palpitations because I wanted to see something so bad. But I think we have a lot of depth, like a lot of movies that I'm intrigued about and could be very hit or miss. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been looking at a lot of lists, and obviously there's the obvious movies that we're excited to see, but it feels like I remember when we were doing this last year and even the year before, being like, okay, that's a potential Oscar winner, those are nominees. It feels like at least from what I've been reading and seeing, 2023 is going to be a lot of exciting, fun, entertaining movies. But I don't know of any that's going to like stick out at the moment. It's kind of fun that we kind of have no idea of like, this is obviously made to win an Oscar, right? Like we get those every time. And I'm sure there will be those, but like, it doesn't feel like those are the ones that are sticking out right now, where we're just looking at fun, entertaining movies.
Yeah, I agree. I think the big blockbusters, there's like some fun ones, but nothing like that's just going to totally move the needle. But there are a lot of movies that I think could surprise us and end up being hits. Also, before I send it over to you, sorry, for horror this year, you and I are the big horror hounds on the show. A lot of options for movies that could be big time rejuvenators for the genre, but also some high risk, high reward ones, I feel like, too.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, horror. I mean, you and I have talked about ad nauseum definitely on the show. Is like horror has made up a bit of a comeback. There was a big lull in the mid. I think really like between the 2008-15 time frame, like there was a big comeback in the late 90s and early 2000s, and then kind of dips and flows. And I think we're kind of back up at. Hopefully they won't. What they always do is they kind of like do too much, and then we get another dip.
Right.
So we'll see. This year might be starting to push those buttons a little bit.
Yep. All right. We begin with our most anticipated films of the year. Nate Thurman sent in his picks. The other bros were tied up, so they couldn't do. So we'll let him do them on an upcoming show. But the first thing Nate Thurman mentioned, and Cycling, this might be on your list as well, is why I'm going to lead off with it, is the Christopher Nolan directed Oppenheimer, which comes out July 21st. And he wrote, mainly it's obviously Nolan, but the unbelievable cast that he has. Cillian Murphy in the lead, Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., and then we get some big young up-and-coming actors, Florence Pugh and Jack Quaid. So Oppenheimer is one of his most anticipated. Is this one that you had as well?
This is absolutely what I had as well.
Now, Nolan, I am a huge Nolan stan. I admit that sometimes his films, especially like Tenet and Inception, are just too high concept for me. I still enjoy them visually and the acting is great. I just don't often understand what's happening. Now, this, of course, is based on nonfiction events similar to Dunkirk, which Dunkirk I liked, but I just didn't feel like there was much of a narrative to it. This, on the other hand, looks very interesting, and I believe really the first like character piece he's done, right?
This is probably why it's so high on your list and on Nate's list and on mine. Was I think we're going to get the perfect blend here of what Nolan does best. Is we're going to get the visuals, we got the cast, we got the acting, but we actually have a story that's reined in only because it's a true story, right? So. Right. Nolan, hopefully, you never know, but for the most part, should be sticking to that, and we shouldn't be walking out of the theater going, I do not know what just happened. If we should do that, it's because of the science, right? It's because of like what actually occurs in this world of Manhattan Project and Oppenheimer and World War II and all of that. That's what we should leave us in awe and in confusion, not like, what the hell was that plot? I have no idea who anyone was or when anything happened. So if he really is handcuffed by that in a good way because it's a true story, I think we're getting the best of anything Nolan can give us, probably since The Dark Knight, because in the same way with The Dark Knight or any of the Batman series, he could only go so far, right?
Right.
So. Well,
it's interesting too because like this obsession that he had with time and ways to play with it, like obviously Inception and Tenet especially, but they're literally that's the focal point of the entire movie. But even with Dunkirk, which kind of fell in that same period of his filmography, he couldn't help himself, and time, and even especially like in the score, the ticking clock that Hans Zimmer utilized, like I think throughout almost the whole movie, that was a central focus. I'm wondering if he's kind of gotten over that with his filmmaking, or if there's still going to be a component of that in this somehow placed.
I'm sure it's going to be broken down, maybe not into like this bring the science into a very deep level like on the atomic level, right? Like how the timing and like the ability to split atoms and do all this kind of thing, like how time is different based on our perception. I'm not saying that's going to be the focal point of the movie, but I could see him allude to how time is just relative.
Yeah. Did you have any other most anticipated movies besides that?
Well, really quickly, I wanted to say, too, I am really excited for Cillian Murphy. This cast is great, but I think Cillian Murphy's like, we don't get him that often as a
leading man, yeah. And it's funny, he's been in so many Nolan movies, mainly as Jonathan Crane the Scarecrow. Obviously, he's in Inception, too, but he read for Batman. It was him and Christian Bale were two of the finalists, and you can even find the screen test he did on the DVD. So he has been a Nolan guy for quite some time.
And Nolan, it loves that repetition. But was it his voice wasn't as like, was he like, where were the other drugs going? Was that why he didn't get it?
I think he actually said the lower part of his face, like his lips were like too attractive. Like they were like too weird looking in the cowl.
Kissable lips.
Yeah. And then also I think that is what Nolan said verbatim. And then I think he also just said, like, I just really liked him for Jonathan Crane also.
Yeah,
Like
he
he was
is good.
just so menacing as that character.
Yeah, I think I'm excited about that. Like we don't get him often, or maybe too aware of how often he is leading. I really, because we were just talking about Nolan, how he likes to use the same people. How much do you think Leo wanted this role?
Probably, yeah. It's weird with Leo though. Like between J. Edgar and The Aviator, it's like, do we
Hmm.
really need another like
I
pseudo
don't think we do,
biopic from him? Like, I get it.
but I could see him been like, maybe he can be as choosy as he wants to, right? He's Leonardo DiCaprio, but I was surprised originally that like this wasn't his role. But yeah, like you said, the cast: Florence Pugh, Gary Oldman, Kenneth Branagh. Like, I mean, like you can go down this list, like Matt Damon, like Emily Blunt. It's crazy.
Josh
I mean,
Peck
yeah,
is in it.
yeah,
Yes.
it's absolutely wild. So I mean, whether for the good or not, that has to be. I mean, I don't know how this movie isn't on everyone's list.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. You said you didn't have anything else?
Well, I mean, I do, but in a very different way, and I think you'll like this.
Tear
Um, I'm not. I'm not even a big fan of the franchise or a lot of these kind of. I mean, I'm gonna go with the Flash
I had
because
that at first too, but yeah,
it has nothing to do with the plot of the movie. I have no idea if this is gonna be good, but this whole Ezra Miller thing over the last 12 months.
it's insane.
What what is the lead up to this movie? What is the marketing of this movie going to be
Because he
like?
can't promote the film, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I know it'll be quite some time since then, but there's no way.
And that's what's. I mean, he has all sorts of legal issues. I mean, I don't know. I always like kind of this contrast of anticipated doesn't mean we're going to be the best movie.
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued and excited to watch the build up to this movie. I might see it, maybe I won't. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is what a fucking conundrum this has been for DC and Warner Brothers and everything of what they have to do with. They put all that money into this movie, and they pulled plugs on other movies like you and I have talked about that maybe there was even more money on. So the fact that they're keeping this one in really
Yeah.
really intrigues me.
And
Yeah.
they've delayed it as much as they can. It's had 5 different directors, literally.
Yep.
I've heard by all accounts that it actually is good. It's now being directed by Andy Muschietti, who did the 2 It movies. Michael Keaton returns, but again, the Ezra Miller situation is like just unfathomable.
Yeah, I don't know. You're not going to see a leading man go on the networks on the late night shows. I mean, like unless he has the best like redemption arc
I
in the
don't
next
know.
few months.
What he did wasn't like, becoming a victim of circumstance or like addiction. I mean, he was grooming a girl and had
Kidnapping. I mean, like
yeah. So it's
weird.
bizarre. The only other thing Nate said was all the MCU movies, so Quantumania, Guardians Volume 3, and the Marvels. And then at the very end, he'll talk a little bit about one of the shows. But this year for the MCU, for me, it's a very important year because I think last year, for the most part, was a struggle, both between Disney Plus and theaters. And Ant-Man has big plot implications for Phase 5, so they need to have a good year, I think. I feel like
Do you have
they're
5 movies coming out in Marvel?
did last year.
This year.
I'm not sure
Between
what's coming up besides those two. I know they have a lot of shows. Loki season 2 and Secret Invasion are coming out. Echo.
well, there's a few others, maybe like family, like the Spider-Verse is coming, the second one, right?
Oh yeah, just like Marvel in general, not
Yeah,
Marvel
Marvel in
Studios.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, Spider-Verse, and then Kraven the Hunter, which is a Sony production, but it's a Marvel character.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, I have 3 most anticipated.
I'm not surprised. I have to. I have a guess on one of yours.
What?
Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming Fast 10.
Yes, that is the one I'll start with. So I am an unabashed, huge fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. Fast 5 is legitimately an incredible movie, and it is very high in my top 100. The series has gotten understandably ridiculous, and in the last movie, they actually jumped the shark, in my opinion. But this is part 1 of the 2-part supposed finale to the franchise. Somehow, Gal Gadot's Giselle is coming back. Like, no one can die. But the thing I'm most anticipating is the watch party that I'm going to have. We'll have to try and be in the same town when this comes out to go see it. And then also the opportunity, and if this isn't done, I'm going to riot in the streets, for Universal to use the tagline, Fast 10, your seatbelts.
My God.
Which I'm giving them that for free.
As the lawyer of this podcast, let's not give that to them for free. That's worth billions of dollars.
If they don't use that, I mean, what a waste, right?
It's one of those things that someone in the marketing room said that, and everyone either was like, "Oh my God, Gary, you've done it," or they're like, or someone's like, "That is literally the worst tagline I could possibly do." Like there's no other like. Someone's like, "Oh, we'll think about it." No, it was either or. Like there's no other way.
Interestingly enough, Brie Larson and Jason Momoa are joining the franchise. Apparently they pay very well, and Charlize Theron will return for the third time as a villain, which is actually kind of a cool through line that they've had the same villain past couple films. But this one is just like, I think summer movie. This is what I think. We go get 4 or 5 beers before we watch the movie. We pee in between the action set pieces. We come back and we ask, what did he say about his family while I was gone? And you just have a blast, man. Like, that's what the movie theater is all about. All right, next one, no stranger to you and I. That is Saw. Right now it's being called X, but it's also Saw 10. Saw 10.
I don't want people to get confused between Fast 10 and Saw 10.
Correct. Saw 10, your seatbelts doesn't work as well. That's a tagline. Now, Cycly, you actually told me, you and I are huge Saw heads. And I think actually this year we will do... Wow, are we already to Saw 3D for our commentaries?
I think we are on the last of the original line.
Yeah, if you don't count Jigsaw. Wow. So we've done commentaries on all the movies. Go back and listen to them on our channel, especially on Halloween. But this one has me intrigued because while the franchise has tried to expand to the point where it basically is just continuity-wise a complete mess, this one I think actually might go back and play in the sandbox. And based on the time period that I heard, which I don't want to say what it is specifically in case it's a spoiler for people out there, but it will not have the burden that some of the other Saw franchises have had of trying to branch out a story that has basically been like milking blood from a stone. I think this has a chance to sort of go back to its roots. Is one of the reasons I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, you and I have both always talked about like how good the Saw franchise started, but they kind of pigeonholed themselves by killing the main, by killing John Kramer in the third one. Wow, that was ballsy. I don't think they were predicting that there was going to be 10 of these, right?
I do respect that they stuck to that.
They have, yeah.
Because we were worried about
Christopher Nolan to deal with the timeline. That's what they needed. But yeah, I mean, like I'm going to be in the theater on opening day. You know that. My one concern is I think with the movie that came out, what was the one with Chris Rock? Spiral. We were kind of led. I feel like we were misled a little bit, and we were really excited. We're like, what a crazy cast they just got. We were like, they told they had this epic idea, and it really just felt like there was nothing there. And so, like, I mean, we won't talk the rumors. You can look them up if you want it spoiled. But I am excited. I'm just trying not to get hurt again, right? Like, I get that they have this idea that there's like, oh no, this is gonna work, but I feel like we've been told that a couple times.
Yeah. I guess I got to see it before I believe it, but I'm like I said, we're both a sucker for these things, and similar to Fast 10, we'll have to try to somehow find a way to get this together if possible.
They could do 10 more years of this, and then they could all suck, and I'm probably still giving them my $8 or $10.
Yeah, I agree. All right, the last one, did not know this was a thing until today, and if you thought the Saw franchise coming back again was the most Jeff and Cycly thing of this year, well, you are wrong, because Ronnie Cycly, they are rebooting The Strangers. And
wait, what? How have I not seen this?
It is an all-filmed and in-the-can trilogy of films, the first of which we will get this year, starring Madeline Petch from, what is she in? Riverdale, I believe. So these are 3 films directed by Rennie Harland. Part 1 comes out this year with the plot being a young couple have a cross-country drive in order to get a new beginning. Unfortunately, they have no other choice than to stop at a seclusive Airbnb in Oregon. A night of terror unleashes as 3 masked strangers show up to their door in the middle of the night.
Oh my God. How have I not heard a thing about this?
I was thinking the same thing about myself, and I heard about it today, and sort of a little bit of a more modern take, but the fact that it is The Strangers and a reboot of it, I mean, again, possibly somehow could be in the same universe, and this is just a false bill of goods, but very, very excited. And the characters, at least the strangers, are still Man in the Mask and Dollface.
Ooh, I'm in.
Yeah.
I like the second one. The second one didn't get near as much of attention, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't as scary, but like there were some really good scenes. I mean, I don't think they have milked that franchise as much as like we're talking about Fast and the Furious and Saw and everything else. Considering how I think when you talk to anyone, even non-horror buffs, you just
Yeah.
mention The Strangers, everyone remembers where they were when they first watched that movie. Everyone's like, "My God, that movie kicked
I
the shit out of me."
like if you factor in like being at an age where like you're not a kid and like everything scares you, I can never place another time in the theater where I've felt such visceral fear.
Yeah.
I was like a 17-year-old literally covering my eyes. I was so frightened.
The whole theater, I think we saw it together. I've never been in such a. Usually, when the theater's full and everyone's making noise, it kind
Yeah.
of reduces the fear factor. That whole theater experience was one of that intensity and fear, and that was like I remember the people next to me freaking out. Like
Oh,
everyone
everyone was
just
like,
like,
shut the fuck up because it felt like we were in that house.
yeah. And so I just like it always is funny to me that we really only got two of those, and the second one was really like a decade later. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy. I mean, I we'll see what they do with it. It's an easy idea, right? Just whether you're at home or isolated, Airbnb, wherever. It's just like someone comes to your house, an uninvited guest, and
And that's what makes it
terrorizes.
so scary is it's not
It's easy.
like a demon from hell coming out of like your TV. It's
Yeah.
like, no, this could happen.
Whoa, that's scary. I don't want that to happen either.
I just thought of that. Write that down. I'll edit it
Writing.
out. All right. Next, we move on to our biggest sleepers. Nate wasn't able to send one in for this. So, what are a movie or movies that I guess sleeper we get a little vague with it, but it's basically a movie that you haven't heard a lot of people talking about yet that you think could be really good, or maybe just a movie that you think might really surprise people.
I think mine's going to be to your first point. This did cross my mind as being my most anticipated, and you'll understand why the second I say it. But it is Ari Aster's third feature film that we're getting, called Beau is Afraid.
Yeah, no, this was originally titled Disappointment Boulevard because
Yes,
I mentioned it, I think, last year on our.
I think we did. Yeah, and I think that was throwing everybody off. And
So I got so confused today because I was like, Ari Aster has 2 movies this year, and then I just couldn't find Disappointment Boulevard anywhere, and I just sort of deductively said maybe.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if that was a misdirection, if that was on. Sometimes they change the names on sets, right, to like mess with people, so people don't look for certain things or try to get things spoiled. But I mean, in general, like I think probably talked about it a little bit last year, just like the idea of like the mind of Ari Aster with the mind of Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like that's I mean I don't know, man. That sounds crazy in a good way.
What a potential year for Joaquin Phoenix with this and Joker too.
And that's the thing is like people can have their opinions on Joaquin Phoenix. You don't have to like the guy as a person, or maybe you do. I don't. That's not my point. Like what he is incredible to me. I remember being the first time I remember seeing him was when I saw Gladiator in 2000 and being like Joaquin Phoenix was a better actor than Russell Crowe. Like what Russell Crowe won the Oscar and Joaquin Phoenix didn't. And I mean obviously for different supporting versus leading, but I remember like everything Joaquin Phoenix is in is he's kind of like maybe he wants to be, I don't know, kind of like Daniel Day-Lewis, like just goes balls to the wall, maybe too much so. But then you bring in Ari Aster into this, who, if you've seen Hereditary or Midsummer, or any of his shorts online, like that guy has a wild brain too. Go read his. I probably mentioned this last year. Go read his AMA on Reddit.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it's such a good one. But anyway, the whole point is like this is a comedy horror. We don't really know much, so that's why I put it as sleeper and not anticipated. We almost know nothing. But they're kind of labeling it as a comedy horror. There's been rumors that it's 3 or 4 hours long. Obviously, no studio is going to allow for a 4-hour movie, so we'll see. There could be a director's cut like he has done with his other movies. But it's kind of like this description is like it's a surrealist horror / dark comedy, right? And I guess Phoenix plays an extremely anxious but pleasant-looking man who has fraught relationship with his overbearing mother and never knew his father. His mother dies, and he makes a journey home that involves some wild threats. So that kind of sounds like Joker a little bit, like, doesn't know his dad, crazy relationship with the mom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, not much else to say because there's nothing to know about it. But those two guys together, I'm in. I think that could be a script that could be incredible.
I have to
Like,
say, I think it's close, but maybe just because Nope didn't blow my mind. I think for me now, Ari Aster has slightly passed Jordan Peele as my most intriguing director. Where like
yeah.
when I just hear that they have a project, and Nolan used to be at the top of this list, but once I just hear that they have a new project coming out, I don't know anything, and I go, ooh,
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I kind of like. That was the one problem with Nope is, I mean, again, we talked about it on last year's in depth, right? Like, we like the idea that they're hiding everything from us. And then you see the movie and you're like, well, they were kind of victims of their own marketing. Like, they didn't need to market it like that. And I don't think I would have been as disappointed if they had marketed the way the movie could have just been. I would have gone and seen Nope and probably liked it more. The fact that they're like, everything's a secret, shh. And
yeah,
then you see it, you're like, there was nothing needed to be a secret about this film. So this is how I kind of feel about this one. It's so tightly lipped. Now, Midsummer Hereditary, maybe Ari didn't have the following as he did at those movies. I know a lot of people didn't know about those movies before they were released, but again, his fame has changed a little bit since then. So we'll see what this is. But I think again, I will rather have them prove me wrong. I would put my money on Joaquin Phoenix and Ari Aster in a project together as
yeah.
something that's amazing.
I wouldn't want to bet against those guys. I'll say that. Do you have any other ones?
No, I mean, I have, I have Knock at the Cabin, potential, right? Like M Night, has you and I have defended M Night a bunch of times on this pod, and I always will. Doesn't mean I like his movies. There's always a way with M Night that the trailers always look really good, right? Like
Yeah.
it's really easy to form. I think he's had a little bit of a good comeback the last 6-7 years, right?
Right.
Like I've talked about, The Visit was good. I personally enjoyed, was it Old?
Old, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was an amazing
I
movie, but
loved Split. Did not like Glass that much.
yeah, same. Like, but I feel like his past 7 years have been better than the 7 years before that.
100%.
So I'm in. The trailer looks great. I don't know about a sleeper or not. I was kind of labeling it under a sleeper because M. Night always gets he always gets enough credit and gets enough following. So I do have that as well.
I had that as one of my honorable mentions just
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, he's on that list, below Peele and Ari Aster as a director who, whenever he gets a new project announced, I'm just intrigued because he is trying new shit. It does not always work, and he's been, ridiculed and criticized, rightly so in a lot of cases for his flops. But man, when he fucking hits it out of the park, it is something to behold. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll be there opening weekend when Knock at the Cabin comes out, and it might end up being a dud, but at least the guy's out there trying to do something original.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, I had two. My first one is a movie that I kind of hope we don't get another trailer for because conceptually, I'm there. The cast, I'm there. And just who's behind the camera, I'm there. And that is Barbie.
I
Which
have that on my
it's okay. It sounds weird to put on a list like this, but I don't think anyone knows what the fuck this movie is. And I am so excited to see what ends up happening. Greta Gerwig, who did Lady Bird and Little Women, very interesting director to do this. The cast, I mean, we have Gosling, Margot Robbie,
Mm-hmm.
Will Ferrell, among others. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but it's star-studded. And based on that first teaser trailer, I have no idea. This is going to be like genre bending, right? Like,
Yeah.
it seems very meta, but also very like social commentary. But also, I'm sure she's going to do something. It'll be like a dark humor kind of as well. But then Mattel signed the rights away to their character for this. So it's also like, I mean, if it was
They
going
had
to
to have some control.
correct, they wouldn't let them do that and then make you have you make a hit piece on them. So
Ken kills Barbie in a fit of rage. Like you can't.
yeah. But it talks about a little bit in the trailer, like the toxicity kind of the Barbie brand and the image and the effect that it's had on young girls. But at the same time, it does recognize how iconic it was. Now it's like one of the most recognizable toys in the entire planet. So I don't know. I don't want more marketing material because right now, I think everyone that is aware of this movie is going to go see it. So they may want a more mainstream audience, but I don't think it's geared towards kids. So it's for people like adults that have a sensibility or a knowledge of this toy.
Yeah. I think for me, when I have this on my honorable mentions, um, I think when I first read that there was going to be a Barbie movie project, it kind of made me feel the same way with like Mario or like all these others. You're kind of like, okay, I guess
I
you can make
guess
a movie.
it's IP that we haven't done yet.
Yeah, that's Hollywood, whatever. And then like as the time has gone on since like what years ago, whatever they announced like this project, like I am quite shocked how much I'm more intrigued every day by what they might do with this. Now you're right, like I need a with Mattel and everything, like I'm probably overthinking it in my head. But between the cast and like a lot of the build up, I feel like there's gonna be something we're not expecting.
Yeah, there has to be.
Yeah, if we go in and it's just a movie about like I'm Barbie and it's just like falling in love and her getting her career, like all her careers that Barbie had, like you know what I mean, like I'm gonna walk and be like I don't know what I expected. I guess that's on me and not them if it's exactly what a Barbie movie is going to be, but I guess we'll find out.
Again, I think whether it's fair or not, the movies that I don't really know what's going to happen or what sort of the end game is for them are way more intriguing to me this time of year.
Yep.
Another one, I didn't know this director had a movie coming out, and he's appointment viewing for me, is David Fincher. He has a movie coming out this year called The Killer, starring Tilda Swinton and Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
And it says, an assassin begins to psychologically crack as he develops a conscience, even as his clients continue to demand his skills. It is an action crime thriller. And again, Fincher visually and narratively just one of the best of all time. And Swinton Fassbender, very intriguing. And because I didn't know about this movie till recently, I was like, this is one that could be maybe getting Oscar buzz at the end of the year, or if not, just be like one of the best movies of the year that I didn't even know about till really recently.
Yeah, I'm in on that. Like David Fincher, big fan always. So many of his movies are in my top 100, and Tilda Swinton always has scared the shit out of me. So
yeah, like, she's incredible.
Yeah, she's incredible. Like she always is so good at dark roles. Like she's good in everything, but like man, when she's in dark roles, I'm always like, oof.
Yep.
Fear boner.
When she's chewing the scenery as a villain, it's really fun.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, next up, or I guess last up before we go to honorable mentions, flops, biggest flops of the year, movies that are going to fall flat on their face, either critically or at the box office, sometimes both in tandem. We'll just be very candid. This is where we take some swings and we are usually wrong here, but we're unabashed. Like, put ourselves out there, say something stupid. If you're right, then you look like a fucking genius. And if you're wrong, then we can just delete the episode and we never even said it. Nate had one that's coming out pretty soon in February, 80 for Brady. And he said, who the fuck is even the target audience here? I'm assuming you've seen this trailer, right?
Yeah. I almost put this and I saw Nate put that. I was like, what this movie is? And I saw like, isn't Brady like a producer? Like this is so.
He's in it a lot too. Yeah. It's
just so pathetic.
Is it for women or men? Is what I don't get.
It's her Tom Brady.
I guess.
Jesus Christ, like up your own ass. Like, what is this movie?
And I think originally it was supposed to just be a Peacock release, but it's getting a theatrical release, I'm pretty sure.
Jesus.
So
what is the plot of this movie? I mean, I know the plot of the movie. Like, what's the climax? Watching him win? So I don't know.
I don't know. The climax is one of the women actually doesn't have menopause, and so it's a big reveal at the end.
He cheats on Giselle.
Giselle, right?
Yeah,
there you go. Oh, spoilers for 80 for Brady. Imagine if someone ever said the phrase, sorry, spoilers for 80 for Brady.
Whoa, man, I was going to see that.
Dude, honestly, fuck you. Not cool.
Like, is it? I don't know. I guess it's going to be this like coming of age. Like, here's the thing. Who is this movie for? Because if they market it as like, yes, it's like 4 women in their 80s get together and they're old friends forever. And it's like a sister of the traveling pants type situation that they just come behind just like the excuse to see Tom Brady. But that's not for football people. I mean, who is this movie for? If it's for women who want to have like women's empowerment and friendship, then I don't think a random person is going to see this movie because of Tom Brady. And also, if it's a football person who wants to see it for Tom Brady, they're going to walk out of this movie being like, what the fuck?
The Venn diagram of who you market this to is pretty small, like the overlapping part of those two circles.
Menopausal aging women or NFL bros. Like, I don't get it.
it's rough. Another one Nate had, and he put this on here almost obligatorily because he had it last year and it got pushed. And I actually think my opinion on this has changed since the marketing's come out. I don't know about you, Cycly, but he put the Super Mario Brothers movie as a flop.
Does it change for the better for you or worse?
For the better, yes. I was shocked at how much I liked the trailer. Again, we've had very limited exposure to the voice cast, which I think was everyone's biggest area of trepidation with this thing. But Anya Taylor-Joy sounds awesome as Peach. I was digging Jack Black as Bowser.
Yeah, that was never a concern for me. Yeah.
Right. Limited Charlie Day as Luigi, but I think that'll work. Obviously, Chris Pratt as Mario is the one we're scared of. Haven't heard it too much. And I'm not really a fan of Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, but everyone else for me worked.
And I'm going to say it again, and Daniel Day-Lewis as Yoshi.
Yeah. You said that last year.
I know.
I hope he just, as a gag, lets them put his name in the credits.
He's been retired for so many years. And I just love that he's the idea that he's a method actor. So he's like, well, I guess I'm going to be a green dinosaur for the next year and a half.
The one role that could get him out of retirement. God damn it.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember we talked about this movie and
for almost 2 straight year preview shows. I feel
Legally Blonde 3 is also on this list of movies that got pushed that we talked about, and I think 1 or 2 others. But I don't know how I feel about this movie. I don't.
And you're a huge Mario fan of the game.
Yeah, I am. I love and play. I have like every Mario game, and I just don't know. Chris Pratt is so overdone to me. I don't know. I find him quite annoying recently.
Yeah.
It just, if they were gonna make this movie, I think I said it last year. I would rather have them just done a live action, like let's really go all out. This just seems like they're kind of half-assing it. Like I don't expect this movie to be bad, because why would it? It's just a Mario. It's the same vein of the games. Peach gets kidnapped, he steals stars, and Mario's gonna go save it. Like there's nothing wrong with that story. So I don't know necessarily that the movie's gonna bother me. I just don't know if it offers anything. So
it's setting up the Nintendo universe where we can then get our Mario Party movie and.
It's just the Mario characters getting drunk and playing games all night.
Getting a fucking bloody hand from rotating the analog stick so many times.
But I'll see it. I'm going to see it.
It's an interesting one. All right, Cycly, what are your flop or flops for 2023?
Yeah, I have 2. Again, I did Elvis last year. I really thought the biopic game was played out. I don't think it was as successful as probably some people thought, but it definitely wasn't a flop. I did see it. I thought critically it was good, but was surprised the biopic had still some success left. This one, I'm taking another swing for the fences. Could be completely wrong. I'm going to go with the Hunger Games prequel. I don't particularly. So think about it like in this context, right? Like Harry Potter was and is vastly more popular than the Hunger Games ever was, right? Like the Hunger Games movies did good. They were great, 100 million plus. But as the movies went on, they kind of dwindled. Like the third
interest was waning, I feel like.
Yeah, I read the books. Like they're fine. I'm not criticizing the narrative. It was kind of repetitive, right? Like so, I just think like you said, it waned. And then you think about again how popular Harry Potter is, and then they brought in the prequel of the and even though you can argue it's not really a prequel of Harry Potter, but like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them franchise, which is on the struggle bus right now, right, for a variety of reasons, but one of which is that it's made good money, but it doesn't have the same draw that Harry Potter had. If we're already looking at the Hunger Games was never on that level, I don't think I've heard in the last 10 years in just casual conversation of cinema and entertainment and books, anyone bring up Hunger Games anymore.
No, me either.
And I'm not talking about, I mean, even the prequel, I know there was a book, but like, it is not in the realm of conversation among, I don't think
it's so far off the zeitgeist that it's like.
Yeah, like, I don't think Gen Z is into it, and I don't think the millennials have as much of, like, the whole, like, again, Harry Potter thing. The only reason I allude to it is because they were coming out around the same time. The millennials have that, like, childhood shared with Harry Potter, and that's why we'll never let it go. I don't think anyone has that draw to Hunger Games. So it's and especially that, Jennifer Lawrence isn't going to be tied to it. So like she was the main draw. I don't know. We'll see. I could be completely wrong. There could be a whole genre fandoms that still exist. They're just not that loud. So maybe I'm wrong, but I really just don't think this movie, for amount of money they're spending on it, is going to be a success.
Yeah, that's a good one because that's one too. The movie might actually be good, but it's all
Yeah.
based on will fans of that franchise come back? And I mean, let's just be realistic. Are they just kind of aged out of it?
Yeah, and like I said, I'm sure the movie will do fine. I'm sure it'll be the number one in the box office the weekend it comes out. But the question is the second week, right? Like that's really where you flop. And I just don't think it's going to have that kind of draw, but could be wrong.
I'm with you. You have another one or no?
Where did it go? Yeah, I'll just go with the two prequels I'm going with was the Wonka movie.
Oh man, that was my other honorable mention. I was excited for. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I again, not saying again. I try to say like it will not be bad. I really look at a flop in the definitive of I don't know the draw. It is going to be holidays,
Yeah, that's tough.
That's a tough one. I don't know. It could do well. Is it what people want to see right now? I mean, when Charlie and Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, like those tore people's heartstrings, but in different ways from nostalgia and,
but the Depp one,
Johnny Depp.
Well,
yeah, and
at least
so
critically, it was kind of panned.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but kind of the same realm. I don't know that people necessarily need it. So, and again, if it's coming out on the holidays, it's going to be competing with a lot of things. So, doesn't mean it won't be seen. I just less so than Hunger Games. I just don't know who this movie's for.
And Chalamet actually has, I mean, that and Dune Part 2 coming out right around Christmas or maybe in November. So busy end of year for him. He might even sort of be cannibalizing himself at some point.
Yep.
Box office. All right. I had two, and it pains me to say this first one, but cycling, I'm really worried about Scream 6. For a couple of reasons. Number one, Neve Campbell leaving over the pay issue. Not that she's like quintessential to the plot, but it sounds like there were some sort of creative differences involved with this one that had her hesitant to leave, which isn't as big a deal. To me, the two main things are, number one, how good Scream 5 was last year. It made it was one in my top 5 movies of the year. It came out in January, which was like, for you to withstand every other movie that comes out the rest of the year and still be on that list, it's really impressive. But that movie being so good, I feel like the drop off is just inevitable here. And the second reason is how quickly they churned this thing out.
Yes. Yeah. That's for me. It's the second. It's the latter. The Scream, you and I have talked about it, is the most consistent, definitely, of horror franchises.
Yes.
I mean, no horror franchise has been able to be consistent like them. I'm not saying every movie is incredible, but like there isn't a bad Scream movie. There just isn't. I'm not concerned about them doing a Scream 6. Like you said, doing it within a year and the Neve Campbell situation, a little nervous.
It's what eventually victimized Saw, right? Saw was a cash cow. They would basically be like running pre-production on the next movie before they were even done filming the original one they were on. So that's what I'm worried about, is how quickly this came out. And Scream, which is much more plot-centric than a lot of horror franchises, maybe not Saw, which is kind of surprising, but it lives in this metaverse, and can you really have that much new to say within 1 year of examining the horror genre?
Yeah. Well, it is interesting that they're going, like, right, they're plugging the whole New York marketing big city idea. So it looks like they're trying to do something new, but it could be gimmicky. I'm going to trust it, because even if this one does suck, Scream will still average by far the best horror franchise. Like, right? Like, it will take multiple bad movies for Scream to still lose its reputation.
No, I agree. I was just saying, as far as like a movie that I have high hopes for that might end up, the writing on the wall does not look good, but hopefully I'll be surprised.
Yeah, I feel the same.
My other biggest flop is a movie that Hollywood has tried to get right once before because it is an incredibly valuable and recognizable IP. I just think this is a fan base that is really hard to please, and that this IP does not translate very well to the big screen, and that's the Dungeons and Dragons movie. We have Chris Pratt in it. Chris Pine, excuse me.
I was like, damn, he's in that too.
He's in a lot. Chris Pine stars in it. The trailer plays very comedic, which I don't know if the Dungeons and Dragons heads at home that are playing this game religiously want to see it sort of lampooned on the big screen. But this is one I don't know. I know it's a recognizable IP, but I don't think this film is gonna do that well.
It could be fun. I've never actually played D&D. I have a group of friends here where my wife and I moved to that they play D&D every Tuesday. And
I mean,
it's
from
funny
everything I've heard, it's fucking awesome to play.
it sounds it's on my bucket list. I want to do it. I mean, I know it takes a lot of work, and it's so popular now among I've read that like among Gen Z, like people love D&D. A lot of it has to do with Stranger Things, has really won people over because like the whole plot of Stranger Things was they're playing Dungeons and Dragons throughout the whole series, right? So, Futurama actually did back when Futurama was canceled the first time. But they did 4 movies, which are all incredible in my opinion. But one of the movies is just they're basically playing Dungeons and Dragons, or it's like it's a satire of Dungeons and Dragons. Like the whole plot is revolving around that. So and that was hilarious. Now that I didn't need to know Dungeons and Dragons to find that one funny. So I don't know. I think there is something there. I think it could be successful. It's enough people are into D&D. The question is, are the people who are into D&D wanting to see this movie?
Right. And how do you do it? So I think of like, it's not quite apples to apples, but the Warcraft movie that came out a few years ago that took itself very seriously. Yeah. And I don't remember that doing very well critically or financially. So, and that has probably an equally, maybe even larger, especially at the time, fan base. So this, again, everyone has, from their probably personal experience playing the board game, a vision of what it should look like on the big screen, and it's tough, man. It's almost like the Star Wars fandom community. Like, are people ever going to be happy with what they see in a movie? And I don't know if this is one that translates well, but maybe it will. There's enough, there's enough people out there.
And from what I understand about it, I could be completely wrong, but every style is different. It's based on the dungeon master. There's different ways to play. There's different rules, and there's different universes like you can control, and like there's no like specific way. And so that's why it's going to be kind of interesting how many people might be nerds of the game, and are they making fun of it? Or is it not taken seriously? So I'm with you. I don't know if that movie's for us. I don't, but it will be interesting to see how that does.
Definitely. All right, last thing, Nate sent over just a few TV shows that he's very excited for. I echo pretty much at least 3 of these. I definitely echo. And if you can think of anything you're excited to see too. I didn't prepare any TV shows, but a lot of my TV shows I sort of realize as we go throughout the year, like How I Met Your Father's coming out soon. You and I are big fans of that. And then HBO always surprises us with a few. But Nate mentioned The Bad Batch on Disney Plus, which actually came out as we're recording this today with its first 2 episodes of this new season. I am currently watching for the first time the Clone Wars animated show, which leads into this. And it's actually really fun. It's just a lot of episodes to get through. I think I have like 25 left. So when I finish that, I'll check this out. Have you watched any of the animated Star Wars stuff? Because it is canon, but it's also a lot.
I haven't. That's the problem. It's just like I've been wanting to. I watched Rebels a long time ago and things like that. But it's such a, not in a bad way. There's so much out there right now. Yeah. There's so much material, especially around Star Wars, with all the live shows. That's been like, it's one of those burdens that like I just need to suck up and do. But I'm always like, oh, not today. No, I'm gonna get to it, but not today.
Yeah, it is worth it, but yeah, it's definitely a lot to get through. So it's not like I started watching, I think like 2 years ago, and there's like 200 Clone Wars episodes, maybe not that many, like 100 something. But it's good. But I'm not quite caught up with The Bad Batch. But when I get there, that'll be a good one. This next one is an HBO Max show, which I didn't know the creator of Chernobyl, Craig Mazin, was in charge of this, but Nate put it in his notes, and that's The Last of Us, based on the very popular video game, which I have not played, but I'm kind of familiar with the story. Cycly, what's your relationship to the game, if any?
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah.
Apparently, I had like too much. Some of the best cutscenes of any video game, and like the script to it was just so incredible that it got optioned pretty quickly after it came out. And this one actually comes out next week, January 15th. So trailers looked pretty good. It's almost like a 28 Days Later, but with like a slightly more sci-fi effect of the apocalypse. And Pedro Pascal's in it, who's also in The Mandalorian Season 3, which Nate mentions. I think we're all looking forward to that, March 1st. And then the last one, It's like you
Really
and I
quickly,
think,
I'm gonna say like that could be an introduction to the game. Like someone like me who's never played it might be wanting a new show. Like that's cool. I was not aware too much of that.
yeah, I can't. I know they made a couple games, but I can't remember if the first one or the second one is the one that they said had like the best script of any game they've ever played.
Wow.
I think it was. I can't remember. Either way, the writing has supposedly been incredible. And then the last one, Cycly, our show, You, starring Penn Badgley, gets its fourth season, February 9th. They're actually breaking it into two parts on Netflix, like the season, which is good because, we'll binge the whole fucking thing in a night.
Oh God, yeah.
But this started off as like our guilty pleasure show, and then I'm just straight up tell you, it just became a pleasure show for me. And now we're on season 4. I'm kind of hoping it ends here because I'm just wondering how much longer you can stretch this concept, like this conceit. But Joe is everyone's favorite sociopath, and I'm excited to see him again here in about a month.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't remember the first time, like, why I decided to watch the show originally or when, but man, like, it's very much an epitome of just guilty pleasure, suspenseful, horrible characters that you want to root for some reason. Like,
I
it just
know.
asks the questions of the audience that, like, you don't want to be asked, but you like, acting like you don't want to. I love the subreddits of like every season people like are like rooting for Joe, and you're like, you shouldn't be rooting for him. He's an awful person.
We all do it though.
I know, but yeah, I
Like
don't
if he
know
got
how
caught,
much.
I'd be devastated.
That's the thing. Like, yeah, are we gonna get a whole? It's a Dexter. I think we talked about it a little bit. It's Dexter all over again, but so far they're doing okay. They're holding serve.
Yeah.
I mean, it took Dexter a little over 4 seasons until it really started going downhill. Because what do you end the show with him on trial? Like, you have to have some sort of dramatic ending that unfortunately Dexter did not do. So
Yeah.
I'm in. I'm so excited about it, man. Like, I feel like the whole country binges the show together.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about like the possible end game of this show? Because I'm worried, especially with Netflix, the financial situation they're in. They are going to milk every intellectual
Yep.
property they have till it's like basically shriveled up and dead.
I just don't know that how much. I mean, like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, just like Hollywood, Netflix, all of it. But I just don't know how much more they can do. They can't just keep repeating it.
Yeah.
The question is, like, does Jenna Ortega come back? I mean, she's on the up and up. Like, that would be a pretty big.
I mean, I know they have a relationship with her because of Wednesday, but yeah, can they afford her again for this?
Yeah, I know that's the big question.
Be interesting. All right, 2023 should be a fun one, and of course, we will be here the entire way for reviews, commentaries, all that good stuff. Anything else before we move on, Cycly?
Just wanted to mention. We had mentioned Scream 6, Barbie was on and then John Wick 4. Excited about that one.
Oh yeah,
just because
I love the
talk
John
about
Wick movies.
fun entertainment, just pure what action movie should be.
Just gun fu, I believe, is what the term they coined for him. The way he fights with a firearm.
It's the creativity of the kills are like, it's wild, the things they come up with.
Oh yeah, and of course Keanu.
Yeah,
what's not to love? All right, second part of our show is our protein shake. We go around and talk about what is in our cup, also known as what have we watched lately. Cycly, I know we have one that overlaps, Glass Onion. So I don't know if you want to talk about that first or last.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, either way.
All right.
I think we have a couple, but I'm sure I have a few that I can be quick about because I know you've seen and maybe already talked about on pod.
Same. So why don't you just go first and we'll play a little tennis here. What have you seen lately?
So I'll go quickly on the two that I'm assuming you've already talked about. So first, wife and I finally got through. Well, because everyone else was talking about it, and we decided to do it, was White Lotus, and we did the first 2 seasons. Well, the only 2 seasons in a period of about 3 days, I believe. The nice thing about the show.
I'm so jealous you got to see it for the first time again, because that's like a feeling that I miss.
It was the first season is 6 episodes, and the second season is 7 episodes. It was the first weekend that my wife and I had to just like decompress. I had no responsibilities. It was fantastic. So we just pushed through it. And it was, again, I'm sure you've talked about it a bunch, so I won't get too into it. It's just like, if you're hearing about it first time, if you thought about it, it's just fun. There's
really no show like it on TV.
No, and again, like kind of alluded to you, not the same way as you, but like you're rooting for characters, you hate the same characters, you go back and forth, you don't know who you actually like. It's just like the characters are, and the writing of it is so fun and effortless. Like you really feel like these are real people, and everything they do is actually realistic. They don't, for what you think is a murder mystery show, or it really isn't about that. It's really about characters just being themselves at these resorts. I think I might have liked the first season slightly better. I liked them both a ton. The first season I liked a lot because you got a lot of background on the staff. The second one didn't really require it, but
Right.
I just really I love character driven. You don't need to know anything else. The motives behind the behaviors, everything in their past, that's not important to the story, right? It's important to the characters, but like to you as your entertainment, you don't need to know these people that well. You'll get to know them. So White Lotus is, if you're still considering it, just watch the first one. I think you'll be hooked.
Yeah, it has like a really unique sensibility to it that's kind of hard for me to describe. It would be if like True Detective didn't take itself seriously, kind of. Maybe not even that much of a murder mystery. It just has, like you said, it's just incredibly well written and it's just captivating television.
Yeah, it's not about who did it or whatever. It's literally just about these people, right? That are coincidentally all in the same place.
Yeah. And they're just all so interesting, like especially season 2. I was like, every one of these plot threads I'm like really invested in, which is fun. You rarely get that on a TV show. There's normally like one, like I've heard in Game of Thrones when they cut back and forth between the houses, sometimes you're like, ugh, get these fucking guys off screen. Get back to so-and-so.
Yep. Yeah. So love that. And then the other one I know you've talked about, but I watched with you last week, was Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, won't talk too much about it, but really just great commentary. Again, murder mystery, whodunit type idea. But the movie is really more of a commentary on modern times, modern friendships, Generation Z and millennial concepts and how we view things and how we rush to judgment and all that kind of stuff. But it's, again, really fun character development, really fun, just like isolationist group of friends stuck in a room or in a house for a weekend. So yeah, Guilt, like I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It's not that long of a watch either. So
yeah, and again, just I think before we started it, I just told you like it's just like in when I think of the whodunit, the thriller, the borderline, I wouldn't really describe it as a horror movie, but like the slasher type flick, like we're always looking for like, all right, what's something you can do that I really haven't seen before? And this might not be a completely original conceit, but it definitely takes the genre and puts like you said, sort of like a social commentary layer to it. But also, even if you exclude that from it, it's just kind of clever in a lot of ways that you don't see this type of movies before.
Again, just fun. You don't need to think too much about it. It doesn't try to hide what it is. There's a lot of funny moments and a lot of ridiculous moments. Oh, and I thought like one more that I'm pretty sure you've talked about was Violent Night.
Oh yeah, I loved Violent Night. What did you guys think?
It's just, again, everything we've tried to watch the last few weeks has been about just like entertainment value movies you can shut your brain off to. I mean, the concept is hilarious, right? Like Santa's just like stuck in a house because the reindeer, like during a hostage situation, the reindeer get scared off because of gunshots. Like, it's just, again, there's nothing.
Turns
if you
out
take
Santa's
that movie,
a badass.
Yeah, if you take that movie seriously, or that movie, it's not like that's not what some movies are just meant to be like that.
And we
kind
need
of like, yeah, John Wick meets Santa. It was pretty cool. We had a great time.
Yeah, again, if you went into that movie and you were confused about what it was going to be, like you just didn't watch any of the marketing because they're pretty straightforward about what this is.
Yep. So those are the three I'm sure you talked about. So didn't want to take too much time on those.
Nice. I watched the George Clooney, Julia Roberts comedy Ticket to Paradise on Peacock, which recently came out on the streamer. It was in theaters a little while ago. You might have seen the trailer for this. This is where Julia Roberts and George Clooney are a divorced couple whose daughter is getting married in Bali, and they want to break up the wedding. So they sort of make a truce. It's like the classic romantic comedy, but they sort of make a truce for the weekend to work together, even though they hate each other since their divorce, and hilarity ensues.
Oh boy.
And I have to be honest, this movie actually is like, there is some pretty good heart to it. Like the story behind why they separated is actually kind of a tearjerker. And Clooney and Julia Roberts are just like having a fucking blast in it. It checks all the boxes of tropes, and Pretty much all the types of characters you would see in this movie are present. But I have a lot of fun with these movies, and there's enough of like an interesting wrinkle to this to where it's not like the most predictable thing of all time, but it probably goes where you think it's going to go. But it was fun.
Yeah, nothing wrong with those.
Well, then I'm glad I didn't obviously I wasn't going to pay to see it in theaters, but I'm glad it came to Peacock as fast as it did. On the rom-com kick, my wife had never seen the movie High Fidelity from 2002 with John Cusack and Jack Black, so we watched that.
Did you like it?
So it's interesting, like it doesn't age that well in the sense that like John Cusack's character, and maybe I just totally missed this at the time, but he's just like a shitty person. Like I forgot he like cheated on his pregnant girlfriend in the movie. And it's just, again, from 2002, like it's the magnifying glass that's shining on relationships sort of pre-social media and like the dating app. It's probably realistic for at the time, but man, it's just, there's like a lot of problematic things in it. I will say Jack Black is an absolute scene stealer. This was him like just about to enter his prime. Like Orange County, I think, was the same year. And he was really about to become like Saving Silverman was about to come out. He was about to just sort of blow up. And his comedic sensibility at the time, you see why people were like, dude, there's not many comedians acting like this in movies. This is hilarious.
Yeah, I need to revisit that. I think I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, I mean, you should see. I moved it down on my list. It was like in the lower 250s, and I think I dropped it down a few spots after a rewatch. It's still a good movie and a romantic comedy, but I think I just had it for some reason. I think the narrative structure of him like counting down his 5 worst breakups of all time was just cool to me at the time also. But I remembered it too fondly.
Yeah. As those kind of early 2000s nostalgia in our heads, a lot of movies I feel like don't live up to what we thought they were.
Yeah. It's on Paramount Plus if you want to go check it out. One other thing I'll mention briefly before I get to the 2 cool things I watched. Today I took a CBD gummy, half of a gummy, sat on my couch and watched Avengers Infinity War for probably like the 9th or 10th time. And I just had a fucking blast. That's all that was. It was just awesome. I love the movie. I'll talk about it, at a later point in our top 100 list more in depth. But that was, if you have the means, that is just a great experience to partake in. Let me just put it that way for multiple reasons. All right. We have Glass Onion, and then I had one other thing. Did you have anything else besides that?
Yeah, I have a couple. Yeah, I'll go quick. I had COVID the week before Christmas. And
I heard. I'm sorry.
Revisited. I revisited First Kid on Disney Plus. Sinbad.
Wow. Okay.
I had nothing
else
to do.
That's the speed golf at the end, right?
No. That was. Are you think what's speed golf?
Where like he needs to get off the golf course, so he's like in the cart, literally like hitting the ball.
Is that My Date with President's Daughter?
No, Sinbad's in it.
Oh, Sinbad. It's not First Kid though.
Is that House Guest maybe?
Maybe, yeah. First Kid is the end, is where like he's
the Secret Service agent. That's right.
Yeah, and the kid like escapes to the mall and gets kidnapped by his former Secret Service agent. It's such a 90s 2000s movie, or 90s, and it's just like one of those movies that like when we were kids, I feel like these kind of movies got made all the time. These like just gimmicky, stupid movies, but we ate it up. I don't feel like movies are made like this anymore. Just like
they're definitely not like big releases if they are.
No, I mean, I'm not trying to be like, oh, back in my day. I'm not trying to say they should be made. I just feel like there was so many gimmicky things in the 90s. But you know what? I thought I was gonna hate it. I thought it was gonna be terrible. I laughed. I literally like Sinbad's having to hide at the.
Is this on Disney Plus? Yeah, it is.
It's on Disney Plus. Yeah, he's having to hide in the Coca-Cola pizza mascot at the skating rink because he can't be seen, and of course like he gets like just hilarity ensues. He's assaulted by kids. I mean, it's just complete dumb and nostalgia, but kind of the opposite of your High Fidelity. I was like, I thought it was going to be so bad. I'm going to like one of those old movies. You're like, how did I like this movie? And I was like, you know what? It could have been a lot worse. It really could have been.
Is Woods the name of the ex-Secret Service agent?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so he's played by Timothy Busfield, who's also Lonnie in Little Big League, the one who ends up meeting Billy Haywood's mom.
That makes sense. Yeah, actually, he looks familiar. That makes sense. Yeah, I just remember loving the movie as a kid, and I had nothing else to do.
And Zachary Ty Bryan from Home Improvement's in this.
Yes, he's the mean bully.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Have you not seen this?
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
But I definitely remember like begging my mom to rent the VHS when we go to Blockbuster.
I don't know if I should tell you, yeah, dude, like take a CBD gummy and watch it. Like it's an hour, 20 minutes. It's when I had nothing to do for 5 straight days, isolated alone, like it was fine. So I don't take that for a grain of salt, but I thought it was fun. I thought it held up for a kids movie in the 90s.
If you thought it was funny, I'll think it's funny.
Yeah. I also watched, so this was a movie, an interesting movie for me. I watched The Hunt for Red October, and I had seen my dad was obsessed with this movie when I was a kid. Like this was one of the movies my dad had on in the background all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just would have it on, like he'd be doing dishes or he'd be doing whatever, and that movie was on. So like I always like never really took time to sit and watch it because in my head I've seen the movie a 1,000 times.
This cast is insane.
The cast is amazing, right? Like so it's the first Jack Ryan movie. It's Tom Clancy, like not Tom Clancy. Was it Tom Clancy? Well, anyway, the whole point is it was kind of cool to revisit because, yeah, I had seen the movie, but I had never, like, watched the movie, right? Like, my dad always loved it. And so for me to actually sit there and watch the movie in one setting and realize, yeah, there were scenes I remembered. There was the ending. I remember the beginning. I remember all these little things. But as I was watching the film, I was like, I don't remember this movie, even though it had been on TV a million times in my youth. And it's fantastic. I mean, obviously, like you're talking about the cast and Sean Connery and so many others, but
how does Sean Connery play as a Russian submarine captain?
So it's interesting. This is kind of the weird part of the movie, but they used to do this a lot back in the day. They start the movie with all the Russians, like Sean Connery, speaking Russian, and then they kind of do this like somatic thing where like they zoom in and zoom back out. And they're all speaking English. The idea is
they do that
like,
in Valkyrie also.
They do that. They do it in a few other things, yeah. And so like, and of course he doesn't have a Russian accent at this point. Like he's just Sean Connery, right? Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just Sean Connery being him. So like he has like some Russian dialogue and stuff like that, but
because like Tim Curry's a Russian, it looks like. Is Sam Neill's character Russian as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So none of those guys are obviously Russian, but they're great actors.
Yeah, they're great actors, and I don't think Tim Curry, like I don't think he even uses. I mean, again, there's a scene where they're all speaking Russian, but outside of that, it's kind of there's a little bit of a whodunit. You know, there's espionage. There's like a spy. The whole thing with Alec Baldwin and who getting to play Jack Ryan in the first role that Jack Ryan is a character in. It's I'm just saying, like I get a movie I thought I knew just because of my childhood.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I took the time to rewatch it.
See, it's on Netflix, right?
Yes, it is on Netflix, yeah.
Okay, I'll have to give this a poke at some point.
And then, as always, I think I talk about it once a year on this pod. The Circle Season 5 has come out a week ago.
Oh, wow.
So
we're already up to 5 seasons. That's kind
of... They did 2 of them in the first COVID year. So, like, it was been one every year since. You've heard me talk about what the concept is. 8 strangers who can only they can't leave their room. They can only speak through text. They have to get to know each other through games. They could be catfish. They could be real. They could lie. Nothing's holding them to that. And then you vote out who you don't like. A little bit of Big Brother-esque. There's a lot of different elements. I think last year I complained about season 4 because all the contestants were like semi-influencers.
Yeah.
Which was so annoying. And like all they were there for.
It's like a totally different show. Yeah.
Yeah, their own clout and plus everyone had seen the show before, so you kind of had some reasonable expectation. And so it just felt like I was watching people promote their own brand. I feel like this season so far, we're only 4 episodes in, or 3 episodes in. These people are back to the original. Like they're not influencers, they're random people. And it's made it a lot more refreshing.
All right, good. Maybe they heard some fan feedback.
Yeah, I don't need to just see people promoting their Insta. I just don't.
Right. They don't even care when they get off the show as long as they do something that helps their brand. All right, before we get to Glass Onion, I watched a movie that I actually think you'll be intrigued by. It is called The Immaculate Room. Ooh. It came out last year. This is on Hulu. It's really short. It's like an hour 30 minutes, including credits. It is a single location film starring Emile Hirsch and Kate Bosworth. And the concept, Ronnie, it's, I would say, a psychological thriller.
Ooh.
It is a couple played by, again, Emile Hirsch and Kate Bosworth. They win this contest where they have to stay in this room called the Immaculate Room together for 50 days with nothing but each other, a shower, all their food and drink is provided, like in these little protein shakes. And if they stay in this room for 50 days, they are awarded $5 million.
Wow.
And it's
There's
set
no
up by
TV or anything.
no, there's nothing.
Books?
Now, there are a few rules. There's no books. The few rules are at 2 points throughout the 50 days, each of them respectively can give up $100,000 each time of their potential winnings for a treat, in quotes, which they don't know what it is, but they're told each time they do this, it will help make their stay more comfortable or more enjoyable, I guess. And the movie goes, so the point of it is like the psychological breakdown of human beings in this environment, like what happens, when and where are the things that trigger you or set you off on these different paths that you can't prepare yourself for mentally. But the thing that I was kind of disappointed in, and I kind of want you to watch it to get your own opinion on it, is I feel like there are so many cool ideas with this premise, and the movie really doesn't explore any of them. Like any of the things that when I started watching it, there is one really interesting element that happens that don't watch the trailer before because it is kind of spoiled. There's one cool thing they do that I was like, okay, I'm glad you did that. But for the most part, like if you and I were to sit down and talk about like the biggest questions we would have about people potentially doing this in real life and what would that look like for the most part, those things aren't addressed, which is kind of.
I'm intrigued. I might watch this tonight because you said it's so short. But yeah, that's exactly where my head was going. Is like all the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
it
don't know
is.
if I could,
Short. You and the wife would like it a lot.
I always wonder. I'm like in my head. I'm like I could definitely do that. But
yeah,
then I'll be like 3 days and I'm like, oh my god.
And just like the conversations that the couple starts having, like, yeah, that's exactly like if I was in there with my significant other, this is what we'd be talking about at this point. And like the paranoia that sets it, like we can talk about it later, but one of the contestants starts thinking something is happening in the room, and then as the viewer, you're like, is that happening? I'm gonna start looking.
Oh god.
So that's kind of interesting.
That's good. I like that.
All right, last thing, Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. You actually saw this before I did, I think, right?
Yeah.
A few days. All right, so I guess real quick, what were your thoughts? But before that, just so people sort of know where we're at, because I know on this podcast, love-hate relationship with Rian Johnson. What did you think of the first Knives Out?
I need to rewatch it. I watched it only one time, and I liked it fine. I thought it was entertaining, delicious whodunit. But I remember by the end of it, I wasn't like, I didn't feel like I had really like, oh, that was a fun ride. I remember like being like, oh, it was a good movie, okay. And I really didn't think too much of it. I felt like there were a lot of people who really loved it, and maybe I did I miss something. But I was basically like, yeah, it was a good movie, but no more than that.
I think I felt the same way. I liked the Benoit Blanc character, but I have a pretty high expectation for whodunits and sort of how they unravel the web of mystery. And I felt like Knives Out sort of relied on a few gimmicky things that maybe it was supposed to be like a sort of tongue-in-cheek look at the genre, but I feel like it didn't set any of that up until really the very end, and it kind of left me with a little bit to be desired, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that leads us to Glass Onion, and I guess we'll say, do you want to say just spoiler thoughts right here? So if you haven't seen it, skip ahead like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. What'd you think?
I personally loved it. I thought it was better than the first one. I'm sure that's a controversial take. I think maybe a lot of people online don't agree. I don't know about that, but I just thought this movie again, and kind of the theme of a lot of the things we've talked about today, or I feel like I've talked about, is just like turning your brain off and just letting yourself be entertained.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, kind of like White Lotus, kind of like a few other things we talked about, like just really fun characters, like the movie is quirky. Benoit Blanc is, I think, I like Daniel Craig much better in this one too. I thought he was so much more fun.
Yeah.
The pressure was maybe taken off him. I don't know.
And the plot was more interesting here.
Yeah. I think I loved the red herrings. I love that the movie was really told you what it was, right? Like it just told you the whole time. It wasn't lying about anything. When a character said, "Oh, I'm just here Don't mind me. He literally is
Or
just
literally
there.
don't
Don't
mind
mind him. There's literally, they're telling us in the front, Edward Norton's literally misspeaking in front of us. He's mispronouncing words. He's saying the Ionian Sea instead of the Aegean Sea. Like, right, like we as characters we are watching this and seeing them not, there's no veil, right? Like it is exactly what they're saying, which I kind of love that little twist, right? Like, yeah, we're expecting something, we're looking for something, but no, it's so dumb, it's brilliant. No, it's just dumb. I really loved it. I watched it a second time with my wife. I even had a lot of fun the second time because there was so much I picked up on
Yeah, I think
in
this would be
in
one of
that
those
realm.
movies that's really good for a second watch.
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I like this one a lot, and probably more than the first one. But if that's a controversial take, I think it might say more about how I feel about the first one than this one. But this
Yeah.
was really exactly what I want from a ensemble cast whodunit movie. And like you said, some of the really, and again, if you come back, still spoilers here, but some of the most interesting things about this movie to me is the way it plays with the genre in the sense that, again, there's not the person who you think is this like clever mastermind the whole time is actually the stupidest person of the whole
Yeah.
group when it's really exposed. Like he didn't even build the puzzle box in the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I love. Those little subtle things you watch a second time. He didn't build the puzzle box. He
Yeah.
didn't plan the mystery.
And the one
And
that he
like,
did plan, Blanc figured out like literally before the salads came out.
yeah.
But the real murder of the film is committed before they even get to the island.
Yeah.
And actually ties a big part into the plot twist, which they sort of Tarantino in the middle, which says that Janelle Monáe's character is actually not who we think she is, which leads to just a whole fun. Like then you take every single character and everything you've seen from them, and it just sort of puts them all in a new light now that we get this information. So I thought that was really cool, and I mean I'm already excited. I'm pretty sure they're going to do a third one. I think Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig both have enough fun with this, and it's
Just do it with Muppets.
that when I saw that tweet, I was like, I mean, they won't have the balls to do it, but that would
No,
be
they won't, but that would be so incredible.
I know,
I would give so much money for that.
like a Clue version with the Muppets. They go to like a mansion. There's like a dinner party.
Yes.
Someone dies.
God.
We'd be so lucky.
Yeah, and it was great seeing Edward Norton be very Edward Norton-esque. Like he reminded me of the character of, in Fight Club. You know, like he's very Edward Norton. I don't know, like not saying he was a bad actor in this, like he's playing the same guy, but like there's a way that Edward Norton delivers his lines, where he's like believable as a leader, but he's also believable as like fraud. Like
Yes.
he does so good at that. When you think of Fight Club, where he's this unconfident but confident, there's a whole plot twist to Fight Club I won't get into, but Edward Norton just plays this line, and like that's why like the whole time you're like, yeah, he is brilliant the whole time, and you're like, no, I don't know. I've always loved Edward Norton. I was really sad for a while when he really kind of fucked up his own career because of his own, like his own ego,
Arrogance,
but I'm glad
I guess.
arrogance. But it's always fun. It was fun seeing him in this role.
Yeah, the fact that he's willing to do a role like this, I think might be a really good sign that he's headed in the right direction.
Yeah,
as far
he's
as
an unbelievable talent in my opinion. So
he really is.
We need him. Yeah,
and he was the perfect choice for this. Like, there's a few actors I could think could play this, but he, like you said, has that like he's like a douchebag without being like brash and abrasive.
Yeah,
like it's so
absolutely.
subtle. All right, anything else?
No, that's basically it.
All right, the last part of our show is our Do You Even Lift Bruh segment. The question and answer segment, which normally Brian Banner intros us with a parrot noise where he says, bruh. But since he's not here, we'll just dive right into it. Our question and answer segment, as we've been doing, I don't know, for like the last 30 episodes, is each of the bros counting down our list of our top 100 movies of all time. You'll find it linked at the top of the description of this episode. It's also on our website, bro4squad.com. Before we continue our countdown today, asking the question, what are the bros' top 100 movies ever? Cycly, before I throw it to you, how would you describe these lists? As we always tell people, it's not your IMDb curated film students' top 100 movies of all time. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, this isn't even. You can argue that this isn't even what you declare as the most greatest films of all time. It's personal to you. It could have to do with nostalgia. It could have to do with the time in your life of where you watched it and your mood that day, the theater experience you had. There's plenty of we all have Phantom Menace. Some of us have Phantom Menace on our top 100, right? Like no one actually thinks it's a top 100 movie, but that movie represented our youth. It represented Star Wars at a specific time, and all like lightsabers and all these kind of things. So really, this is just a list that you should do yourself because it's a really fun exercise. It's really fun to see the type of movies you compare to your own favorites.
Yeah, and like you said, if you go make your own at home, I think it's also just a great trip down memory lane. Like when you saw these movies is a huge part of where they rank and if they rank in your list. So, Cycly, we'll turn it over to you. I'm a little bit ahead of you. Thurman and I are just from last episode. So we last had you tell us your number 61 favorite movie of all time, which was the Joaquin Phoenix film Joker. What is your number 60? 60th ranked, I guess, favorite movie of all time, ranking just ahead of that?
Yeah, I don't know why this isn't on purpose, but man, this is a back-to-back two really depressing films. This is my only, and I've talked about this on the pod, I believe. This is my only documentary in my top 100. It's Dear Zachary, and
I saw this on your recommendation, actually.
yeah, it is. I won't talk too much about it. I know we have a couple things, but it's a documentary about a friend who his one of his best friends passes away. He's murdered, unfortunately, and the friend who was murdered has a son, and so the friend who's a filmmaker is like, I'm going to make a film going around all of our friends and record everyone's stories about your dad, right? Like the idea is Dear Zachary, the son is Dear Zachary, so like the movie is about the father, so Zach can know it was going to be a gift to the kid when he was 18. When he turns 18, and it's just like, hey, this is who your father really was. And what else? I'll stop there, basically saying that's the premise of the documentary, and suddenly it takes a turn into real life that's happening with the murder suspect, with international law, with all these other things that are happening while he's just trying to do something nice for this child. And the twists and turns it takes. This is a true story, right? Like it's unbelievable. It is so good. It's just so gut wrenching. I advise you to watch it and not read about it. Because
Yeah,
if you read about it, you need to understand, watch it the way it's meant to be watched.
yeah. This one had I'm not surprised this is in your top 100 because we talk about like visceral reactions to movies, and it's tough for a documentary to elicit this type of emotion for me that this one did. But I was devastated by this thing.
It's just, if this was a movie, you'd be like, oh man, that sucks, that's crazy. But like
Yeah.
knowing this real life and real life laws impacted this and all the, I don't know. And again, I knew nothing except on Reddit there was a thread that said like most depressing documentaries you ever watched, and this was by far everyone's like
Yeah.
top post. And so I was like, oh, I guess I'll watch this movie. And then afterwards was like, dear God.
Looks like right now it is on Tubi and Pluto TV. So maybe even Amazon Prime if I'm reading this correctly. Oh, I mean, you would have to pay for it. But again, even if you're not a huge fan of documentaries, I promise this one, Cycling,
Yeah.
you just said prepare yourself for.
Just have a palate cleanser ready to go.
That's a good idea.
Have a goofy movie on stream ready to go.
Yeah, have it queued up and that'll save you. All right, why don't you do one more? Your number 59 movie of all time.
Well, yeah, and I know a lot of you on the pod don't like this movie as much as I do. A lot of it is, again, this is going back to what I was saying. This list is a lot about nostalgia, and it is, we just passed Christmas time, but this is I have a Christmas story, and for me growing up, nothing signified Christmas more than this movie. I'm not saying it's not my favorite Christmas movie, as you'll see later on my list, and you know that. But this movie, they always did a 24 hours of a Christmas story.
Yeah, that's probably part of it, I feel like.
Yeah, on TNT and TBS. And from the earliest age, I'm not sure what year they actually started doing this, but from the earliest age that I can remember, we had this on at my house starting at 7 o'clock on Christmas Eve. And we never sat and watched the movie. That's what's funny about all of this. But throughout the 24 hours, we would watch the whole film, right? We never changed.
Yeah, just in like 10, 15-minute increments usually.
Yeah. And it was always just when I see that movie, it's Christmas, right? Like yeah. I can't watch that movie tomorrow. I can't watch that movie in 6 months. But when I see that movie on TV, the way all the famous scenes, the triple dog dare you, all the stuff.
Shoot your eye out, kid.
Yeah, it floods me with emotion and family and Christmas. So this movie, and really quickly, I just want to say they just released a sequel on HBO last month, and my God, it was great. Like that's what yeah, it kept in the spirit of the first one. It didn't just rely on old jokes repeated. It just referenced old jokes, like to say like, hey, we acknowledge that this was a joke, but like the leg lamp like is in the attic, like they just zoom over it and you're just like, oh yeah, that's but they don't rely on the same jokes. But the whole point of the second one is just like, again, the nostalgia of the family. The father had passed away, so the son goes home for Christmas, and it's just like, that's what this signifies a Christmas story for me was family. And so yeah, that's why it's at 59. Just absolutely will always have that as my tradition on Christmas Day.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. Like, the movie again doesn't resonate with me as much because I don't have that memory that you have. So that's cool. That's what this list is all about, is when the movies came out and then the nostalgic of the special place that they hold on each of our lives. All right, Cycly, I think that's going to do it for episode 198. What words of wisdom do we want to leave the people with? I guess for the start of 2023, is there any advice you can give, either as a lawyer or just as a human being? Advice you can give to our listeners on things to have a safe year and maybe not get sued?
Well, definitely, especially around the holidays, we're all trying to drive around and see our loved ones. Hey, the left lane is for passing. I just drove the equivalent of 24 hours 28 hours the last 2 weeks, so Jeez. Around the country. So hey, and not even close as much as Banner. Well, I can't wait for him to get on the pod to tell us about this. But guys, the left lane is for passing. You don't go slow in it. You don't pass people on the right. It's dangerous. It's unsafe. Let's all get to where we're needing to go. Nothing drives me more crazy. And semi trucks, seriously.
Yeah, what's their deal? We respect you. Thank you for the job you do, but you're not left lane people, and that's okay.
You're not.
It's perfectly fine. My advice for 2023, same as it was last year, guys. Make smart decisions when you're getting your hair cut. Okay, not the time to try anything crazy. If you see the kid in front of you get maybe little streaks in his hair, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably too old to be trying that as well. So this is not
too young.
Correct. Or even if you're of the age, whatever age that is, just don't fucking do it. There's just some sound advice. That one's free. Next one's going to cost you. So just play it safe when you're in the haircut chair. Usually don't take any recommendations. You know how you like your haircut. That's what I'll leave it to. All right, for our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycly, I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek. We are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Follow us on Twitter at Bro Force Squad. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, of course, YouTube. You can find us there if you type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words. And then all of our content is on our website, along with our squad blog and the link to the top 100 movies of all time list for each of the bros. And that website is broforcesquad.com. Till next time, we'll see you at the movies. Especially if you're going to see Megan this Friday. You'll see me.
Maybe me too.
What if they do recognize us, our voice?
Like, how do you know us?
Oh my God.